Today's stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hi, I am Leandro Facchinetti, and I forgot to bring the microphone over. Such a professional. Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is something completely new. We are going to start a new project, because that's exactly what we need. We don't have enough projects on these live streams. Let's start another one. New project that we are starting today has to do with what we have been doing for the last 2 or 3 weeks. 3 weeks, I suppose. For the last 3 weeks over at IDDQD Sound, Aria's channel, when I'm a guest over there. So for instance, this Tuesday we worked on this, and it is data bending. Data bending is this process of taking one file that is one media type, for instance, one video, and processing the bits that make up that file as if they were an audio file, for instance. Apply some audio effect to the video file, or apply some video processing technique to an image file. That's that kind of thing. You are misinterpreting the bits that make up a file on purpose, and then you do the processing, and then the result usually looks really crazy, which can be useful for artsy projects like we are doing over at his channel, at Aria's channel. It is also useful, I guess, for like transitions when you're doing video editing. It could be useful to do some kind of data bending. Or if you're data bending audio, it can sound really interesting. You can use this for sound design. You can use this as some kind of wacky effect, maybe on a transition in the song. In any case, we have learned a lot about data bending in the trial and error that went into the project we have been working on Aria's channel. So I thought that what I would do was to document the process and make a little video about how to data bend, because most tutorials we found online have some holes. The techniques don't really work all that well, and we finally landed on something that worked. So I thought I would do a little video, a YouTube short documenting this. In fact, I started working on the short on Monday, and that's why I didn't stream. I'm playing around with the concept of sometimes skipping a stream and working on a YouTube short instead, but it sometimes means that I just don't end up doing a stream and I don't publish the short either, which is exactly what happened. I didn't publish the short because I thought, what if instead of doing a YouTube short and just sharing a bunch of command line incantations with people, what if we built a program that would encapsulate all this knowledge and present a simpler interface for people who are not even into command line stuff, and that would just spit out lots of combinations of data bends. And that will be something probably quite interesting, because you are going to explore data bends that you would not think of otherwise. So that's what we are up to. And I'm calling this project the Data Bender. It's such a boring name, so if you can think of a better name, let me know. But the working title is Data Bender. And we are going to start the project together here. The first thing we have on the project is this cheat sheet that we used on Tuesday. It's just a collection of FFmpeg incantations that I collected and that I built from having read the manual and playing around. And our application will be, in the end of the day, just a fancy way of calling FFmpeg. FFmpeg will do all the heavy lifting. It will do the conversions from the typical video formats into the wacky raw files that we need. It will also be responsible for applying some audio effects. So for instance, tremolo in this case, and video effects as well. So FFmpeg will be doing all the heavy lifting, and we will be in charge of just driving FFmpeg to do what we want. And hopefully we will also present an interface that does not require the command line. But that will be a secondary goal for me. So there are two goals for the project. The first is to make data bending fun and relatively straightforward. And the second goal is to make this accessible for people who are not into the command line. Let's get started. These are the nodes. These are the command lines that we want to be able to run. And let's get a project off the ground. To do that, there is a lot of boilerplate involved, so I am going to copy and paste some stuff from another project I developed called Monitor, and I did not talk about this other project in the stream yet, so I'm just going to take a brief moment to explain what Monitor is in case you are interested in that kind of problem that Monitor solves. So what Monitor does is super simple. It is an application that you leave running on a web server or on any kind of computer, but I imagine you would run this on some kind of web server. You could also run it on like a Raspberry Pi on your closet if that's what you're up to. But what it does is you tell Monitor which URLs to monitor. Again, very boring name. And it will look at those URLs every 5 minutes or however interval you want to have, and it will make requests to these URLs, and if they go down, it's going to send you an email. So it's a simple monitoring system. Those are all the features that it has, and the reason why I developed this from scratch instead of using some existing tool is that all the existing tools do a lot more, and in some cases they are heavier, in some cases they are expensive. For when you want exactly what I described, all you need is a simple script, right? Well, I wrote that script. Couldn't really find anything that exactly matched what I wanted, so I wrote that script. It's called Monitor. And it does have all the main ingredients we need to make up a command line application. So I am going to take almost all of this except for the build directory and the node modules directory. And I think that almost everything else applies. So I'm just going to copy everything and make a big old commit out of that. And this will get us off the ground quicker because I want to be able to get to the juicy parts of calling FFmpeg and trying things out with media files. So to begin with, let's look at the TypeScript configuration in case I have not mentioned before. We are going to be developing this using TypeScript. And I don't think I need to change anything from this. I did explain these settings before on the stream when talking about Kill the Newsletter, so I'm not going to do it again. Then package JSON, this will be, for the time being, data bender. And most occurrences of Monitor should change to data bender. We always start at version 0. And we'll call this data bending made easy. And I'm never sure about the capitalization of things in English, so I have this Visual Studio Code extension called Capitalize that does this for me. And data bending, FFmpeg. I think that will do for now. Maybe even video and audio. You can data band any kind of media file by interpreting it as any other kind of media file, but I think we will focus on video and audio because those are the things that I'm mostly interested in, and they are also the specialties of FFmpeg. So FFmpeg can do images, it can do other kinds of data, but like subtitles, but it makes more sense to deal with video and audio for me. And I do not need this line because for this project, I'm not using a namespace. I'm just using a name, a bare name. I checked that it is available in NPM, surprisingly. I'm always surprised when a name I want is available, and it is. And as far as the scripts go, I will not have a configuration file for this project. I think that's it. And this also makes sense. And when it comes to dependencies, I don't think that any of these dependencies make sense. Maybe commander makes sense. So let's start a command line here. And for development dependencies, we will be using TypeScript. We will be using types Node because it will run in Node.js. And we'll probably be using Cache, but I'm going to leave packaging for later because I am not sure if this is going to be an Electron app, because Electron may be easier to distribute and package. It's going to be a whole thing. For the time being, I'm not going to bring Cache into the project right away. And in case you don't know, Cache is another project I developed that helps you build one executable that is your whole Node.js application on the command line. NodeMon tends to be helpful, so I will be using it, and Prettier as well. And I know that I will want to run stuff on the command line to call FFmpeg, so I will install exec-a, and I think that may be all for now. Now, you may be interested in knowing why I am removing stuff from here and sort of installing stuff from scratch again. That's just an easy way to get the latest version instead of pinning versions to this in case they're out of date. By doing this on the command line, npm is going to grab the latest version for me. So yeah, can I already imagine I will need something right now? I think I'm going to need Lodash for reasons we are going to see later. And to install Lodash, the package name is just Lodash, isn't it? It is. Oh, Bo is here. Hello. Great to have you here. How are you doing? Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoy some data bending today. Yeah, I'm going to install these dependencies. As one does when one is doing a Node.js project, you start by bringing in about 0.5 GB worth of dependencies. So that's what we did right now. Next, oh, you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I also brought from the other project the package lock.json, but I want to make sure I get the latest versions of everything, including the transitive dependencies. So I'm going to redo the last step. I'm going to remove these lines and rerun the last command. So now I'm sure I am getting like really the latest versions of everything. Then let's continue going through the boilerplate, a license, code of conduct, some ignores. The configuration folder can go. Over here, this is assuming cache. So I'm going to comment out, because I'm not sure I will want to use cache as I explained. I will comment out the build, and I will comment out. Or you know what? We are going to start with command line, and then later, if we find a way to use Electron, we'll do that. Just because everything is already set up so neatly here. Let's just install for development cache. And then over here, I will just need to change occurrences of monitor into data bender. And just like that, I think we have everything good to go in terms of generating a binary and everything. Now, the only thing to do is to change this source code because it is the source code for monitor, which is not going to be applicable to data bender. So here we have fs. We probably don't need. No, I think we'll need to create sorry, I think we'll need to create directories and everything. So I think that that will be necessary. I don't think we'll be using timers. We will not need to like pause and wait for something to happen. We'll probably not be using URL. We will be using commander and exec a and load dash. And I guess I explained, oh, I have to install the types for load dash. Install for development types load dash. So I explained commander in the past. It is something that helps you parse command line arguments. I explained exec a in the past. We have used it even in the data bending streams with ARIA. And load dash I have not explained. It's a utility library. It comes with a ton of functions, including functions to help you find random elements in an array. So that's why I expect to use this. And all the rest of the dependencies are stuff you call on the command line. So that's all there is to this. The version will probably be useful, but I don't think I will need to log the application version, but for now, let's keep it like that. Then the name of the application is data bender, and the description is data bending made easy. Then for the arguments on the command line, we will ask you to provide an input, and it may not even need a description since it's so straightforward. And let's have some options like output directory. Could just say output, but I think that saying output directory may be more intention revealing, because we are going to get one input and we are going to spit out however many data bands you want. So we will have to have a directory for that. So that will be the output directory, and I think I don't need to have a description. And as far as default values go, I think that the default value should be something based on the input. So I don't think I can have the default value defined here. But I'm not sure how to do this with Commander. I would like to have something based on the argument, the input argument, as the default. Oh, well. And I will also have an option for bends. And I suppose it's also self-explanatory, so I'll not pass a description, but I will pass a default. Oh, and it has to be a string. right? By default, you will get 10. You will get 10 bends. And for the time being, those are all the options I can think of. Then these are just boilerplate for Commander to behave like I want. And we will probably want this action to be asynchronous. And then we call parse async to actually start the program and do the thing. And here on the arguments to the function that is passed to action from Commander, you have the arguments, so input, and then you have an object with the options. And we have two options, output directory and bends. And the types are output directory is optional and it will be a string if provided, and bends is optional and it will be a string if provided. Then let's see from monitor what we want to keep. I think that the answer is nothing. It's such a different application, nothing applies. Okay, we are off to a good start. Let's have just this. Not doing anything interesting, but we can npm start, and that will give us, again, an error already. Okay, I have a problem on the command line. I deleted one quote too many. This should show us the help, and it does. Missing required argument input, and data bender options input, data bending made easy, bends, default 10, version and help. All looking good to me, and now that we got rid of the version on the log below, we can inline this. I really like the way this looks. Just start the program, start doing stuff. And I'm going to commit this. And you know what? Besides making this available on the command line as an executable, I will also make this available to you as a Node.js library, which is not the case for Monitor, because Monitor is a daemon. It keeps running on the background. So I didn't want to provide that as a library because I thought that would be weird because it would overtake the whole life cycle of your application. So I didn't provide Monitor as a JavaScript interface. But I think that this case, since it's a function that runs and ends, I think it will be okay for me to have this as a function. So I'll export, and I guess it's going to be the only function. So I'll export default function data bender. So it goes. And it will be an asynchronous function because we know we will have to call ffmpeg on the command line. So it will return a promise void, and it will receive as arguments pretty much these things from here, except that the API will be a bit smarter and the input will be part of the arguments here instead of being a separate argument like that. I don't really like the way that Commander does this, by the way, but it is what it is. And on the type of this function here, first of all, I have too many brackets. But second of all, these arguments are no longer optional. Oh, I guess they are. And the defaults can be the same. And then here, the default can be based on the input. Check this out. I will also need path. So the output directory will be the input. And let's say that the input is something like input.mp4. I will want the output directory to be input slash. So it will sit right next to the original file. The folder will sit right next to the original file, but without the extension. And that just made me realize that I do want another option. And I will call this option no overwrite. And I guess I will also give these options shorter names if the person wants that. Tend not to like short command line flags, but I will give the option for people who do like that. And I don't remember how to do it. And Ben is here. Hello, Ben. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving for those who celebrate Thanksgiving. And happy Thanksgiving to you, Ben. As you may know, I am not in the US, or Canada, so I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. But I suppose that people over here do celebrate the World Cup, which is happening. I think that Portugal was playing because I heard everyone cheering. I'm more into a programming, data bending stuff kind of person myself. Let's see the quick start stuff. Oh, easy enough. So I don't even know how to do the no stuff. There is no shorthand for that. Oh, you can use a capital letter like that. Okay, I will take it. I guess it goes like that, right? No force. Or even better than trying to overwrite the file, I will just increment the number on the output directory. If it exists, I increment a number. That's even better. Yeah, keeps everything simpler. So I will never overwrite. I will just increment. I think that that's a nice behavior, right? It's a convenient thing. So output directory bends and input. And over here, input, output directory, and bends. And then the body of this function will be await on data bender, the body of this function, input, output directory, and bends. And this number, okay, this is going to be a number. So bends, if provided, if you provide me bends on the command line, I will pass that along while converting it into a number. If you did not provide that, then I will pass undefined, so 10 will be the default. So I'm promising that the default will be 10, and the default will be 10. Well, in fact, this default being 10 here means that this variable will be set for me by commander. So I would just be passing 10 as a number here. Anyhow, path promises is not a thing. Let's figure out this output directory situation. I will go to the command line, and I think that there is a base name function that I can use. So you give me something wacky, like a path that ends in that gives me the base name, which is just the name of the file. But that's not quite what I want. I think that what I want is ext something, ext name. Yeah. And then if the extension, if you give me a file without an extension, the extension will be empty. So I always put trim anyway, just in case there are spaces in here. But if that is the case, or actually it's not the output directory that is missing the extension, it's the input file. Input missing extension. I'm fine with that. So now that I have the extension, I can just take the input and slice. So let's say that our input is that. So our extension will be MP4, and we can take the input and slice from 0 up to negative extension length. And that gives us the file without the extension. I think that there is no easier way to do this. I think you have to go through this roundabout way of doing this because I want the full path except for the extension. But if you know of a better way to do this without all the handstanding, please let me know. Anyhow, for the time being, let's just console log the 3 parameters. And test things out. So if you don't provide me with anything, no input file, error, missing required argument. But let's have a folder with some example file. And for the examples, I will want to have a video and one audio file. I will also want to git ignore some stuff that I don't know yet. Let's commit what we have and let's bring in some input files. For that, I think that the best way may be to go to the recordings from our stream on Tuesday and slice stuff from there. And I think I need some of my face and some of Arya's face. Well, we only have one video. Let's just use my face in that case. I will want to have a short video. 5 seconds seems perfect. And I will want to have a longer video for reasons that will become apparent later. Okay, it's 23 seconds. I think that that will do for what I'm looking for. Oh, and I kept the audio tracks. I think I'm going to remove the audio tracks. Which means I will have to cut again. I want about 5 seconds on this segment. 5 seconds, I said. Oh, exactly on the mark. All right, and export that. Now, do we have the files over here? I think we do. I think that this is... Oh, there are so many files now. There are too many files. Delete them all and export again. Now the only files we'll find are the right ones. These two. And I will call this one short and long. I will also grab some audio from here. And I am sure we have an audio file. I just don't know where it is. Input wave, I think that's the file. And I will call this, I think I want to cut it actually. And can I cut wave with lossless cut? You opened a new file. I want to open that file. Okay. Oh, I can cut wave? Awesome.
Use your ears. Show your face.
Now I'm looking for like 5 seconds. And let's get a longer one as well.
Every resistor has been modeled. Every capacitor has been modeled.
This song is so crazy that it may not be the best candidate for bending because it's already very distorted and crazy. Yeah, I think I will prefer this beginning just because it means we will have some voice. And about this much, about 30 seconds. No, let's get some more. Something like this should do. Starting to like lossless cut. It does what it needs to do and gets out of the way. And the reason why I'm cutting short and long segments is that I will want to start with just taking the whole file and bending it, because that's the simplest thing that we can do. But then I will also find a way to, and I know that FFmpeg can do this, I will chop the file in several segments and bend the segments and cross the segments with itself. So I want longer files to play around with that concept. So now we have all of that. I can get rid of this, and I suppose I will actually call this long video. And I know it's implicit in the extension, but we will name the outputs according to the name of the file. So long audio and video would get mangled. Hello, Mage. What is up? Great to have you here. How are you liking Svelte? I really like what Rich Harris did in terms of communicating. His talks are great, and the whole concept of a compiler is very enticing because I am a programming language person, so I appreciate taking a language approach to the problem. And the whole retrofitting of the concept, or the concepts that he wanted to have, retrofitting the concepts into pure JavaScript to leverage linters, syntax highlighters, all the ecosystem that already exists, all of that I really appreciate. So I think there is some genius design in there. Alrighty. What was I doing? I wanted to change package.json to actually run npm start, and that help us test stuff. So I think I need to call index with an input, examples / I will do short video to begin with. So now as we call npm start, we see the input, the output directory, and the number of bands that we want to do. Awesome. And one thing about the output directory is, no, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I was going to put a slash at the end, but whatever. Now let's make sure that we have an output directory that does not exist, because we don't want to overwrite stuff. So unfortunately, I remember the name of the person who developed the package I'm looking for, but I don't remember the package name. Get an unused file name by appending if a number exists. Unused file name. Awesome, that's what I want. Getting an unused file name by appending a number if it exists. I have never used this package, but I trust this person so much that I am sure that this is the best solution for the problem we have, which is to find a directory name that does not exist yet. It's about files, though. I wonder if there is some kind of unused directory. Well, it appears that no. And can this package be used for directories? Well, the only way to know is to install and test. Does it come with types? It appears so. And then the way we can use this is by and by default it is asynchronous, but because we want to use this here, no, we don't want to use this here, because if you provide me with a name, I still want to uniqueify that name, so I want to do that here. So that's okay, I can use the async option. And if I do this, then it will give me the same file name, because the file name is available. If I give it examples, it will give me examples1. And if I give examples video short mp4, it will give me that. If I go up and down just to create a longer directory name, it is smart enough to deal with directories, it seems. That's exactly what I need. Perfect. So in here, I can just say that the output directory is a unique version of that name that was given to me. Very convenient. Do I need anything else from this? a sync version. I thought I would have to resort to the sync version because I thought I was going to use it here. And when you have a default argument, you cannot do anything asynchronous, not even if the function itself is asynchronous. Separator increment. Oh, I think I will want to set that. I don't like spaces in my names, so I will pass that as an argument, yeah. And I suppose oh, it's used like that? That's weird. It's used like a function call. Whatever. And I will use dashes. They're not reserved anywhere, and I prefer dashes to underscores. You don't have to shift and type something, at least on the US keyboard. And the dashes look nicer to my eyes. Is there like a default for max try error? Default infinity. That's perfect. Useful for safely moving files without overwriting existing files. Exactly what we needed. This is such a perfect, cute little package. I wonder if it is popular. I saw it as a dependency of something else, and I remembered that it existed in case I would need it, and now I need it. And it is somewhat popular. Awesome. I wonder if it is complicated. I think it's straightforward. I think it's going to be like one page of code. Yeah, it's very straightforward. I wrote this kind of logic so many times before. I like that there is a package for this. Right. It's great for creating Obsidian plugins. I've not looked in at SvelteKit. Yeah, I don't use Svelte. I just appreciate from a distance. I do like the concept in Svelte that there is, I think I'm right about this, there is no virtual DOM, right? Because I tend to dislike virtual DOMs. Andrea is here. Hey. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. And what we are doing is data bands. So we are processing video and audio files to make them look crazy or sound crazy by processing the bits that make up a video file as if it was audio and vice versa. And we are writing a program that is going to do that a lot and give us a bunch of options to look at. So try and do interesting visual things. That's what we've been up to. And we are using Node.js and TypeScript as the language to drive FFmpeg, which will do the heavy lifting. Oh no. Are you going to try and bundle an FFmpeg binary into your binary? Exactly, you got it. Yes, that's the plan. I'm going to embed a binary for FFmpeg along with my TypeScript program, and then I will ship the thing so that you don't have to know that FFmpeg exists or how it works. I wonder if the license lets me do that. I'm sure that there are some licensing issues with FFmpeg because many apps ask you to install FFmpeg separately. What's the license for FFmpeg? This may be out of date, but it's saying GPL. Legal. Legal issues are a constant issue, blah, blah, blah. GPL. You know what? You know what? MIT and GPL don't go well together. Thanks for bringing up this problem because it made me think about it. It was Ben who did this, right? Yeah, thanks, Ben, for bringing up this problem of embedding an executable in another executable because it will come back to bite us in the ass. So let's fix this from the get-go. Oh, no options. npm lights are actually package JSON license GPL. I want to know if I need to capitalize, if I need to put the version number. Should I trust a gist from someone I don't know? GPL version 3, capital V, that's weird. GPL-3, license. You can see the full list of SPDX license IDs. That's what I am looking for. GPL. Not a GPL, just good old GPL. Let's make Rich Stallman happy here. Deprecated license identifiers. No. I want the most freedom preserving license I can get. So that no lawyer will knock on my door saying that I committed a crime. I don't want to commit a crime with this project. Guess I just say GPL 3.0 like that. Rich installment bless us all. And I will need to grab the GPL. Let's just get a markdown version of it if we can. No, I really want to get this from GNU. Why, how, old, what to do? No, can you give me like a markdown version of this? Or even plain text? Plain text, tech, LaTeX, HTML, markdown. And I remember I have to like change something in here, like put my name somewhere. I promise I read the whole license at some point, not just signing whatever. And these are instructions on how to apply to your programs. I'm not going to follow these instructions because they're annoying as heck and no one does this. I guess FFmpeg itself does it. Yeah, they freaking put a banner with the copyright notice. Who likes that? Well, I guess Richard Stallman. Anyhow, relicensed, just like that. That's the beauty of owning the code. I am, first of all, the owner of the entire code in the project. And second of all, I will need to make sure that all the dependencies that ship, the dev dependencies can be whatever, but the dependencies that ship with the project, I'll have to make sure that they are GPL compatible, but most of them are anyway, but I will check. There is a project that helps you do that. But I'm not going to do it now. I will leave that for last because I will want to check all the dependencies at once in the end. But I have never had a problem with a dependency not being GPL compatible in the past. But I will leave myself a to-do here. Or to avoid peekaboos in the end, check licenses. Because you have to not only check the dependencies, you also have to check the transitive dependencies. So let's just have the infrastructure for this. License report, check licenses, license checker. It's going to be one of these. This is popular. This is not so popular. This is even more popular. Let's go with that one. But I will not, I guess I will install this as a development dependency. You know what would be amazing if this was not GPL compatible, but this one is. But if this was like not compatible with the more freedom preserving licenses, that would be fun. So how do I run this again? I think I just npx license checker. Can I get like a summary? Because this is a lot. I don't want to see the licenses for each project. I just want to see the list of licenses that have been used in my dependencies. Only show production dependencies. That is the case. I guess let's have a test. We'll have a test. That's a left turn I wasn't expecting. Well, a left turn is something you are not expecting, but still. Start unknown JSON out custom exclude summary. I'll put a summary of the license usage. I think that will give me what I need. Test license. No, it's npm run, not npx. npm run. Yeah, that's exactly what I need. So MIT, ISC, which is almost MIT, GPL, and Apache. They are all GPL compatible. Whew. So far, so good. We'll see. No virtual DOM, much better. I am a no virtual DOM kind of person. Lols, I'd better not moan about my health. Yes, Arya, inspired by our streams, I am making a program that will spit out a bunch of data bands for us. We will not even have to lossless cut stuff before data banding. I guess we will lossless cut the beginning, the head and tail of a file to just have the good stuff in the middle. But then it's going to recombine parts of the video with itself. The thing we did with the ukulele and the melodica, and they kind of looked cool. I will try to do that kind of transformation as well. I was curious about the license as well. Yeah, that's a can of worms. React has too many hooks hacked in to bypass its shortcomings. Yeah, I like React a lot, but I don't use it. I don't think it's for me, because of this complexity that comes with it. I knew most of your stuff was MIT, so I was curious if that was compatible. No, yeah, so as far as I understand, I'm going to say this again, I'm not a lawyer. I said this yesterday when I was talking about GPL and not GPL, but licensing stuff. I'm not a lawyer. Don't take this as legal advice. But as far as I understand, GPL is stricter than MIT. A GPL dependency cannot be embedded in an MIT project, in an MIT licensed project, because GPL is stricter. You have to follow more rules to be GPL compatible. So if you want to have an MIT licensed project embedding GPL, you cannot do that. But if you have a GPL project, you can embed MIT, BSD, Apache, all of that good stuff in your binary, because those licenses are compatible with GPL. So there is all these sets of rules that you have to follow in order to be following GPL. And MIT is a subset of that. BSD is another subset of that. Apache is another subset of that. That's all I know. But I will wait for people to knock on my door other than that. And I guess we did that. Where are we? Well, we have a lot of stuff. That all of this work just to print the arguments. Let's make sure that the folder exists. So for that, I will I will await on fs.mkdir of output directory recursive true. Just in case you give me an output directory that is a/b/c/t and none of them exist, I will create the whole path. And that gives me a directory. So now I know what I want to ignore. Let's run the program again just for it to create another folder. So now we have -1. I think I will want to use -- as the separator because that's my personal style when naming stuff. And then it will be default in my program as well. So now we will have video -- Awesome, just like that. So I will want to ignore stuff that is in this folder, video. Let's put some files in there. And Git wants to 3 files. We can tell by the green color here. Green is a color. But if we say in this folder, video -- short, it still doesn't match. If we put a /, then it matches. And we should see this change color. Oh, I haven't saved the file. Now it changes color. Now we want to also grab this directory. It's not this one though. So what we want is to have either nothing or -- because we don't want to get the input files. Oh, hang on. Are you telling me that this kind of glob does not work in git ignore? What the heck? Well, whatever. You have to have 2 lines. So this way, the input files for the examples are versioned. And that's what I want. When you clone the project, I want you to be able to npm install, npm start, and have something. And now you have. You have the example files and you have some outputs to look at, but the output files will not be versioned with Git. So let's do the same. It's kind of unfortunate that the globbing in git ignore doesn't support conditionals, doesn't support alternatives like that. But I will take it. So video short, video long, and audio short and long. And that should cover everything we do with examples. Then the next thing we want to do, I think, is a data band. I think that we want to data band something. Let's look at our cheat sheet, our cookbook, to do a data banding with video. We will want to do this, that, and the other one. These are commands that we explored in depth in streams with Aria on IDQD Sound. So if you are like, what the heck? Go and watch those videos. You will like it. I'm trying to think ahead on what we are going to do. We could forego the intermediary files like this. We could forego them, and we could use pipes and stuff. But I think that we would be shooting ourselves on the foot, because in the future, we know that we will want to have effects that have multiple inputs. So I will use intermediary files just like that. And I guess the first step will be to get a hold of the information about this file, because I have hard-coded stuff here that I know about the file. But now we can no longer assume stuff about the file. So ffmpeg, and then input, and then input. And ffmpeg is going to fail in spectacular ways if this file does not exist, I think. And I think that if it fails in spectacular ways, exec A fails in spectacular ways. So I think that this also checks that the input file exists to begin with. And let's call this input information or input metadata, because it is sort of metadata. Yeah, I'll call it input metadata. And I will do this before I even create the output directory. Because if the input file does not exist, I don't want to create a spurious output directory for that file. So I will do that, and I will console log the input metadata first to look at. But that's not all. When invoking exec A, by default, it will not merge the standard output and the standard error streams. So I will want to say all true. Is this right? If I misspell it, it complains. Yeah. And then I want to say all. And I want to say all on the result of awaiting for exec A. I don't want all to be part of this. I want all to be part of that. Hence the parentheses. Okay. Now let's see what comes out of this. Okay, something came out of this. Let's run again. Just make sure. Yeah, a lot of stuff came out of this. It's funny that what's coming out of it is an object. What's up with that? Command fail with exit code 1. Oh, right. Even if the file exists, FFmpeg will complain because FFmpeg is trying to convert this into something. So when I use FFmpeg like that, it will fail even if the file exists. So we need to check if the file exists before we do that. So if await fs, let's use access to input. And what is this going to return? It's going to explode. That's what it does. So I guess what I need to do is try, you know what, instead of access, what if we use stat? I think it doesn't explode, it doesn't throw an exception. Am I right? Can we look at the docs real quick? Fulfills with blah, but it does not throw an exception. Am I right? Do I remember this right? I'll have to check. Node fs await import node fs promises fs stat of examples await that and await that. It also blows up. Funny. There is no way for me to do an if. I will have to try. I tend to prefer conditionals to try catch blocks. And what do I do here? You know what I do? I think I just throw. I think that that's what I will do. So I think I would just throw from this function call, which means that over here I'll have to try my whole function. And exit with a good old error status. And the reason why I'm console erroring instead of just letting this bubble up is because I want this to be a caught exception. I want to communicate the intent of this is gonna throw, and I do want to print this, and I don't want to print a stack trace and whatnot. So I think that this is the correct behavior. Let's double check though. Well, for one thing, I think that exec A is gonna throw because ffmpeg is gonna fail. So there is an option for like throw. What is the name of that? Exception. A way of preventing an exception from being thrown. argv cleanup cwd detached encoding env reject. Don't reject. So now even if this program fails, which it will not throw an exception, and we'll get the input metadata. And ffmpeg, for the time being, ffmpeg has to be installed in my machine. But when we get to packaging, we will ship with ffmpeg. So you don't have to install ffmpeg, you don't have to know it exists. Ben asks, somewhat unrelated, but do you use any continuous integration or continuous deployment pipelines for any of your projects? GitHub Actions. Bingo. That's what I use for everything. In the past, I have used other things from Jenkins to Circle CI and Travis CI. They are all great. They all do what I want, which is very basic. These days, I'm using GitHub Actions because the integration is so simple, so easy to configure, does everything I need, and all my projects are open source, including my day job is open source. So I get free minutes. I love GitHub, love Microsoft. Andrea says, so if I understand, you want to use the common parameter between the two file type functions that are supposed to work originally on their counterpart that should create the magic chaos, right? Oh, and Paul has a great suggestion. Maybe you should use ffprobe here. That is a great point. I am not using ffprobe on purpose. The problem is I want later to package ffmpeg with my binary to ship this as a single thing that you can just use. You don't have to install extra stuff. You don't have to understand how ffmpeg works and whatnot. So I will want to use the static linked binaries for ffmpeg because they're self-contained. And that means that I don't want to ship a self-contained statically linked binary for ffmpeg, a statically linked binary for ffprobe. I want to have a single thing that I ship. I don't want my file size to be huge. It's going to be 100 megabytes. My binary is going to be 100 megabytes, but I don't want it to be half a gigabyte. So that's why I'm not using ffprobe. I'm sort of hacking my way here because ffmpeg, when called with an input and no output, will give me output that is similar to ffprobe. Using ffprobe, we would be able to get the output in a format that is nicer to work with because we could ask ffprobe to produce a JSON, for instance. ffmpeg by itself doesn't know how to do that. The binary for ffmpeg doesn't know how to do that. So ideally, I would be using ffprobe. It would be better, but it would be more difficult to package. That's why I'm doing this and that. What are you gonna do? Okay, now I'm getting a clean exit. Before I was getting an app crashed because it was throwing an exception at this line. And now I am getting a clean exit. And this is the results we get from the little hack that we were just talking about, the input metadata. So now we need to get a hold of whether this is a video or an audio file. But I'm going to leave that as a to-do. I will focus on trying to get a hold of this stuff, which will be available to me over here on the stream information. So I'm now looking for a line that looks like this. Because on this line, I have everything I need, don't I? Do I have everything I need? I don't care about this stuff. I don't care about that stuff. I do care about this. and I do care about that. Because the pixel format is something I'm going to play with. I'm going to play around with the pixel format. And I don't think I need to know the original pixel format to do that. But the size I will also play around with. But for the most part, I will want to preserve the output size as the same as the input size, and same for the frame rate. So that's why I need this information. Let's try and parse this line using a good old regular expression. So I will do input metadata match. Hang on, why do you think that this may not be a string? String or undefined? If input metadata has a type that is not a string, would you please blow up for me? Fail to acquire input metadata. No question marks. Am I right? String, yes. Now I just need to pass a regular expression. So it is a line that is going to start with a bunch of spaces, optionally, the stream keyword, and a space. Just like that. Then there will be a bunch of stuff that I don't care about, but stop soon, because I want to get the first match that I can get. I will want to have something like comma, something with a digit more than one possibly, and that's something I care about. So let's put that in parentheses. X, or is this a multiplication sign? No, it's just an X. I know because I highlighted and the other X's in the code, like this one highlighted. So X, and then I also care about the other one. Let's put parentheses about the other, around the other one. And then a space. And then more stuff I don't care about, but stop soon. Then comma, then space, then a bunch of digits that I do care about. Maybe the frames per second will be fractional if you're using NTSC. Is that the name? NTSC, that has fractional FPSs. So I will want to capture the dot and the more digits that may come after the dot, but all of that is optional. It may not be there. Space FPS. And that's it. That's all I care about. Now, let's give these fellows names. And now I need to admit that I'm out of my depth with regular expressions. Let's go to the docs. I am looking for the groups and back references. And in particular, I am looking for... Why are you huge? I'm looking for names. That's how you put a name on the thing. So the first thing I'm interested in is called width. The second thing is called height. And the third thing is called frame rate. The other parenthesis here is just so I can do the conditional. So I don't want to capture this. A non-capturing group looks like that. Now, let's see if all of this holds water. I have a line like this that I will call, or maybe even more lines. I have some stuff like that that I will call input metadata. And then this. No. Well, it was a good first try. Let's get a copy of this and strip parts of the thing and work our way up. If I just try to match this, still null. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that matches. Then if I try this, that matches. Then if I try that, oh, that does not match because it is not the start of the string. I suppose I can use a modifier for this, like m for multiple line. Yeah, that is nice. I wonder if you can see my exploration or if it's behind my face. So maybe that was the only problem. Here's for wishful thinking. Hey, check this out. And there may be multiple streams. So let's enforce that this is a video stream. To do that, I will put, right after the stream keyword, I will put this like that. Does it still match? It does. And then I can assign this to input metadata match. And if input metadata match is null, because it may be null if it doesn't match. It may be a regex match array, or it may be null. If it is null, fail to find video stream. Whatever. Now we know that this is a match data that we can call we can ask for the groups of. And the groups may also be null. Oh, get out of here. So if that is null or if that is undefined, you gotta love JavaScript and how sometimes you get null and sometimes you get undefined. Thank God for TypeScript. And is there a way for me to pass a generic for this? Because I would love to get the types out of the thing. No. Really, no generics? Are you smart enough to know the groups by the regular expression named groups? No. What's the type of this? Just a key and a string, very generic. So you know what? I'm gonna fail early. Width, height, and frame rate. Why are you complaining? Oh, because it didn't say groups. Oh, there you go. Then we can get rid of that. Now let's print the width, height, and frame rate. And let's see what our program produces. Awesome. These are the correct numbers for the input file I have. Let's commit what we have. We made some good progress. That is a wide regular expression that in a day or two, or maybe in an hour or two, is going to make us look very smart, and it will scare our future selves, which is the goal when you're doing regular expressions. So with that, let's do this first line that produces a raw input file from this. So what we want is to await on exec A. You know what? You know what I think we need before we even run these commands? I'm looking into the future here. I know that we will want to be able to tell what transformations happened, because we may like what we see on the file, except for this one thing that we would like to have the control of changing. I know that data bending is not about having control over the thing, but I think it would be nice to be able to see what FFmpeg did, if only because then you develop a taste. Like, for instance, I do like what Tremolo does in RGB24. So I will want to learn what FFmpeg did, which means I will want to learn what exec A commands I ran. So let's create an auxiliary function that is going to run an ffmpeg command, but it will also log the ffmpeg command. Let's put this function down here and call this function ffmpeg. And these are going to be like the arguments, and it is going to be a string array. And this is going to be asynchronous, and it's not going to return anything. Arguments is not a good name because it's a reserved keyword in JavaScript. So what is this call here? It's called arguments? Get out of here. Can you do that? No way you can do that. Modules are automatically in strict mode, but this is just a type declaration file. Haha, gotcha. Anyhow, I'm going to call this like the ffmpeg arguments, command line arguments. Yeah, that will do. Then we will output this to a file and then run with exec A. And we will want to borrow stuff from here. Yeah, I think so. I will want to borrow, I guess, just this. If result failed, I want to say, whether the process failed to run. If it failed, throw a new error with result all. Because I am going to be careful about the way I invoke ffmpeg to not let this fail. And that's why this first call is not going to use this function, because this first call is going to fail. And this first call is kind of vanilla. I don't really want to log this into the output because it doesn't give you any good information. So I will skip that from the log, but I will want to use this on the log. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So if the result failed, throw a new error with the text produced by ffmpeg. And that's it. But let's await fs append to file. The path will be the output directory. And or even .sh, check this out. It's going to output a script. Well, that's not going to work on Windows. So let's just have this and then what I want to print, which is going to be my command line arguments. Is there in exec A something that will escape stuff for me? Escape command. Escaped command. Oh. This is meant to be a copy and pasted into a shell. Since the escaping is fairly basic, this should not be executed directly as a process. including using exec A or exec command, but I think that that's what I want. Thought I was gonna have to escape stuff by myself, but well, except that if I always want to log what I called, even if it errors. So I think I want to do stuff in this order. And it ran. It actually ran because I saved the file. What did it produce? It didn't produce a file because I never called the function. It's an unused function. And you may be wondering, hey, you are in a module. Why are you declaring this function internal to this? Well, just because it's very convenient to have access to variables like output directory right in here without having to pass that as an argument. So that's why I'm declaring this function internally here. I could have done it like this, and then I would have to pass the output directly explicitly, but I am a big fan of auxiliary functions being inline like that. And because of hoisting in JavaScript, I can declare them last because they're auxiliary. So who cares about them? And they can live here at the end of the function definition. It looks great. Let's see what we have. Our lovely new little function here. And I think that for the command line arguments, I am going to append this Y because I always want to overwrite files. Not really, because I think that maybe my files will be original to begin with because of the output directory being original. Sounds fair. Ability to have presets would be great too. What do you mean by presets? You mean you would give me some configuration that has all your favorite filters to run, for instance? Is that what you have in mind? Because I like that. Perhaps it's too much control, but consider allowing the user to provide presets of filters they like, for example. Not sure if this is going to make it into the library, into the project, because I think it's maybe too much control. Or maybe I could present to the user. I'm not inclined to do this, but I could present to the user as advanced options all the bands that we already have, and they can select the ones that they like. If this is what you have in mind, then let me know. If you have another idea of what a preset is, then let me know. Okay, now we want to call. We already know that these are correct. We can remove that. We want to call ffmpeg and we want to await on the result and the command line arguments. Oh, what's cute is that this argument array is the only argument to the function. So we can just use this. And then we don't have to use that. We can just pass in the arguments like this. I expect width and height to appear a whole lot. I'm going to define this as size to follow with the terminology from ffmpeg. And aha, this is our first point of interest. We are going to do not RGB24 every time. We will be doing I want to say something like RGB 24 and YUV 420p. To begin with, we'll have more. And then here we'll have a pixel format. That is a low-dash sample of pixel formats. See what I'm doing? I'm getting a random pixel format. And maybe this is too naive because this is going to put all the pixel formats in one bag and grab from there. So we may have more esoteric pixel formats that we want to pick less often, but for the time being that will do. So then we don't want any audio, and the path will be the output directory input.raw. And we will be good fellows. Oh, hang on. Why is this a problem? You think you may be undefined, don't you? You will not be undefined. Let me tell you that. So we will be good citizens, and by the end, we will fsrm the temporary files that we generate. And this ran because I saved. So let's see what came out of it. Yeah, we have our input raw file and we have our log. Oh, check this out. This is the log generated by the result escaped command. Gotta love that. Exec A is awesome. Second package by Cinder Soros that we are using in this project here. The first was where is it? The first was this one. You know what? I don't love how we have two imports here. I'm gonna change that real quick. I don't like polluting the namespace with these kinds of auxiliary functions. So that's that. You know what I want to do? I want to check real quick. I'm going to save. Oh, this is going to fail. I want to test two things now, I guess. I want to test that this is going to fail because it's going to try to output to the same file and it's just going to hang. A non-pixel format requested, RBG24. That's RGB24. And you know what? If it fails, I will want to log that. But what I'm interested in here is if this append file is going to put a new line at the end. I don't think it will. And to test that, I just need to run this again. Because it is producing the same... Oh no, it's going to fail, isn't it? Because it's going to try to generate the same file twice. Oh, it just hangs, waiting for my input. That is catastrophic. Because of this, I will want to put Y as a compulsory option for you. Because I don't want the thing to hang like that. No such file or directory. Is that input raw? Right. It's this path. And with that, we can check the log, and I am right. It is not putting new lines at the end. Yeah, here's another FFmpeg invocation. So let's put the new line ourselves. Escape command is guaranteed to be a string. Am I right? It is. And this is guaranteed to be a string because I checked. Okay. May not be the most elegant way of going about this, but who cares? Should work. All right. So I'm now logging every FFmpeg invocation, and I am passing the -y, which is crucial. And in this case, of the first FFmpeg invocation that happens there, I don't need to use -y because it's just querying the input. But there is something that I need to do that will come to bite me in the future, so I'll just do now because I have that in mind. That's a third option for exec A, and that's the option called prefer local. True. For the time being, as I mentioned, I am using the FFmpeg installation that I have in my machine, but in the future we will be packaging FFmpeg with the binary, and when that happens, we want to use stuff from the local, which is under node modules bin. So FFmpeg will live in here, so this prefer local will make exec A find FFmpeg in there. So it is just going to prefer local if it exists, and if it does not, like right now, it will pick up the installed FFmpeg. Good. Bunch of changes. They all look great to me. And what's next? We can remove this. And let's say that this is input raw. And then move on to the next one. And this is what I will call an audio format. Maybe all of these are like auxiliary stuff that can come later in the implementation. And I guess I would just leave one to do here for the whole thing. We will need to look into more pixel formats, into more audio formats, into more video formats, and all that good stuff. So here I will just pixel format. I will also get an audio format. And it will not be null. I can guarantee you that. So with that, we can pass a random audio format here. As for the sample rate, we will also need a bunch of sample rates. Let's just throw some other ones in the bundle. Let's have something that is wildly low and something a bit higher. Fine by me. Oh, there is one more piece of information that I missed when getting the input metadata, and that is the length. It will come in later. And I guess I'm going to rename this to audio sample rate. No, sample rate is for audio and frame rate is for video. No, I will be explicit. Audio sample rate, video pixel format, and audio sample rate. I'm kind of being redundant with channel counts. It's just because I want this to be plural and this to be singular and for the thing to make sense. Because audio channel doesn't make sense, but audio channel count makes sense. So that's why I'm going with this variable name. I find that explaining variable names is a big part of what we do because naming things in a way that makes sense to other people is half of the battle. And this is where it gets absolutely interesting because we'll do the audio filters. Export const audio filters. And this, I don't want to be simple values. I want them to be functions that return values. Why? Because these have parameters that we can also randomize. So audio filter and then call it. And this, because this is a function, we will be able to get a random one every time we call the function. And for the time being, I'm going to be a good citizen and use the same format for the inputs and outputs, but to do use different input and output settings, because we learned that that can be interesting and fun as well. Why don't you like this? Because they are numbers and not strings. And I am missing the output name. I will call this the output raw. And later I will have to clean it up. And that's what I provide here. Let's clean things up because the examples folder is going to get long. And we have inputs and outputs. And we crashed. Okay, clean exit. Kind of slow for the short, but I will take it. How big are these files? Why is my console not starting? Is my stream still working? What the hell is going wrong? Is my computer gonna crash? These are about a gigabyte. I can take it. Just have to remember to clean the garbage from time to time when development. And that is this second line, the band itself. So let's go to the third line, which is going to look similar to this. But this time the input will be the output raw. Some of the settings to interpret this will be the settings we used when doing that. And then the rest of this will not be relevant, but we will need this part. And we need to know what's the extension of the file. Which we learned we can get with xname. And didn't we force somewhere for the input xname to be? Yeah, we did it here. So with that, I can path join the output directory with something like one dot, or not even dot, just one input extension. Not direction, output directory. Fine. And that does this last line. So with that, we should have our first band. Even for a short file, this is way slower than I would like it to be. But anyway, we got a band. We got a band out. And the raw files are still there. Oh, because FFmpeg is still running. Okay, we got a band, 1.mp4. It is a band. And the log listed what happened. And of course, what happened is a tremolo, because that was the only option. But we did get a random pixel format and a random audio format. Now we have to watch that band. It did something, but it was very subtle. I remember it being more drastic when we did the tremolo before. What are you gonna do? It is what it is. It is not the best band, but it's one band. There's just one more thing that I want to do before we wrap this up for the day. And that is, I decided that this is going to be available as a library. So when that happens, when you're using this as a library, we don't want to run this line. So I will need to grab a line from a different project real quick. I will go to Caixa. Because Caixa is the same thing. It is available from Node.js as something you can import. And in Kasha we have tests, but in our data bender thing we will not have tests. But I want to grab this line because this is the magic line that will only run this stuff if the file has been called as an executable. And for that to work, we have to import URL from Node. And it's going to work just the same. And it's going to start bending another file. Let's see if the second bend is better, because it may pick a different file format and a different frame rate. Not a frame rate, a different sample rate for audio. Okay, it finished. Is the second bend better? About the same, kind of underwhelming. Yeah, but whatever. Let's clean up the directory. This is going to be something we'll do often, isn't it? I think it will be. So we will commit what we have. Not much has changed, just that one line. And let's put in package.json a task called clean. And for that task, I will want a dependency. Hey, I'm a JavaScript programmer. I cannot do anything if I don't bring in a new dependency. It's a cross-platform way of doing rm-rf. And I guess I will call this clean examples. No, just clean for now. That should do it, right? Is it going to wipe clean my hard drive? No, it just deletes the outputs from the examples. Awesome job. Let's publish this to a public repository on GitHub. And now you can go to github.com/liafax/databender and follow along with the development. And with that, it is time to wrap up. So, Mage is in an imminent food coma, and if everything goes according to plan, so will I in an hour. So, yeah, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Portugal, but that's no excuse. We can still stuff our faces. And that's what I'm about to do now. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you, Mage, IDDQD, Sound, Arya, Paul, Andrea, Ben, and Bo. And yeah, I think I got everyone. Thank you all for being here and joining me on this ride. It is going to be a fun little project. I hope that this one is going to be short and we'll be able to finish it somewhat soon. But the plan is that tomorrow we will not be working on this. We'll have a very special guest and we'll be talking about composing in Reaper or arranging in Reaper for the Nintendo 64. We'll be talking about how to inject arbitrary code into Ocarina of Time. It will be a lot of fun. We'll have Saurin, who is the director of the Triforce Percent speedrun, as a guest. It will be a lot of fun. Then on Monday, we may return to data bending. We may go to Kill the Newsletter, or we may go to the Automixer in JS Effects. Who knows? You have to subscribe and ring that freaking bell to find out. I see you again tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving for those who celebrate Thanksgiving. Bye. Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all will be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.